Welcome back as we get into the fourth and final lesson of this series on the Lord will provide. We get into verses 13 through 19 of Genesis chapter 22. Abraham told Isaac that the Lord would provide for himself. Abraham lifts up his eyes and he finds a ram caught in the thicket by his horns, and Abraham offers the ram to God instead of offering his son Isaac. The Lord provided the sacrifice to be made on the mountain that day. So Abraham called the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." We see this in verse 14. And the place continued to be called on the mount of the Lord, "It will be provided." A beautiful picture is shown here at this moment. The Lord is going to provide a sacrifice on this place. In 2 Chronicles chapter 3 and verse 1, we learn the Lord instructed Solomon's temple to be built on Mount Moriah. And fast forward 960 years from the temple's completion, and on this mountain outside the city walls, the Lord will offer his son on the cross for the forgiveness of man's sin. The foreshadowing here is beautiful, and it is amazing. Abraham was called to offer his son Isaac on the altar, but God stops Abraham from completing this act, and it is not Abraham who is going to offer this sacrifice. The Lord will provide for himself the lamb. When Jesus is lifted up on the cross, there is no one to stop that from happening. And there is no one to shout from heaven to stop this. The apostle says in Romans chapter 8 and verse 32, the apostle Paul, "He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things?" So what happened to Abraham? Well, Abraham received his son back. The writer of Hebrews makes this point clearly in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 19. He considered that God was able to even raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did receive him back. The text foreshadowed this. On the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from afar. And Abraham said that he would come back down this mountain together with his son. While no one stopped the slaying of the Son of God, on the third day, the Father would receive his son back from the dead. The Lord did provide for himself the sacrifice. And he did so that we could be set free from our sins. Now, we're going to return to the question that we asked way earlier. Is God asking too much from us to obediently give to him whatever he asks? When God was willing to give so much, when God was willing to make that sacrifice for us, a sacrifice that we could never make. God is going to test your faith. And the thing is, he doesn't do it for him, he does it for us. He tests our faith so that we can know that we have what it takes. He needs to see that we will make the right choices, but when he tests us, we realize that we can make it through these tests, that we have the strength, we have the will to do everything that God asks for us to do. So will you hold fast to God and his commands, even if they come at great personal cost to you? Will you do like Abraham did? Will you obediently give to God whatever he asks of you? Will you wake up early to do these things, not putting it off, but immediately obeying God's commands? He didn't spare his own son, but freely gave us all things. So, as we close out this little kind of mini series here, What are you holding back from serving and loving the Lord? And take that list and think about everything that He has done from you and that He has held back nothing from you. Thank you for your attention.